Decision 2012. As the candidates hit the campaign trail, so does KSL's team of political specialists. Live team coverage from Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Florida, and Nevada. Stay informed on KSL 5 TV, KSL News Radio, and streaming continuing coverage on KSL.com. Decision 2012. The primaries. Campaign coverage begins January 2nd on KSL, your political specialists.
Political specialist Richard Pyatt is live in Tampa, where Romney delivered his victory speech tonight. Mitt Romney's LDS faith could provide a valuable edge in Nevada tomorrow, judging from how he did there in 2008. Our John Daly is in Las Vegas tonight to explain that to us.
It was fight night at tonight's Republican presidential debate in Arizona.
The question remains, however, did Mitt Romney close the gap with voters in both Arizona and Michigan? Political specialist Richard Pyatt is live in Mesa right now with highlights. South Carolina presents Romney's first primary test with a large block of evangelical Christians. And the question, will they vote for a Mormon? Political specialist John Daly joins us live tonight from Columbia, South Carolina, with some perspectives on that one. John.
Bruce, we've been talking with voters and political observers here in South Carolina. Many tell us that this evangelical views on Mormons are maturing. Still, there's some tension there. The question is, how big of an impact will it have when voters go to the polls tomorrow? Gilbert, South Carolina. A rally for Mitt Romney draws both strong supporters and some who are trying to make up their minds. Is Romney's LDS faith a factor? Yes, says undecided voter Sue Monroe.
I believe there is a problem with that, with the evangelicals, and I consider myself an evangelical.
Monroe has been researching Romney on the web. She says it's important for her that he stands on Christian principles.
He believes in God. He's pro-life. And those are 2 points that I'm interested in.
The state's treasurer, a Tea Party conservative, backs Romney.
I don't think it's significant. I'm an evangelical Christian. The last 12 years of my life I spent overseas doing mission work. So most of my friends just don't have a problem. There are a few folks that don't understand, but you're never going to get all of those, so we're okay with it.
Still, Romney finished fourth here in 2008, and a recent poll showed more than 2/3 of South Carolina's evangelical voters don't want him as the nominee this time. Orrin Smith is head of Palmetto Family, a nonprofit group that advocates on behalf of Christian conservatives. He says a top leader of the Southern Carolina Baptist Convention recently used strong language in describing his support for Romney rival Newt Gingrich.
He said he would rather vote for a serial adulterer than for a Mormon. So, whammo, you thought it was gone, and all of a sudden it's back.
Still, Smith says more than ever, evangelicals share with Mormons many similar views on social issues, like abortion and gay marriage.
I think evangelicals over time in politics in South Carolina have really matured.
And they see political advantages of joining forces just as they do with conservative Catholics.
They understand that you can work with people politically who may not be exactly on the same page with you theologically.
University of South Carolina political scientist Bob Oldendick says the splintering of conservatives between Gingrich and social conservative Rick Santorum is a bigger consideration in the race here than Romney's faith.
It doesn't help Romney, but it's really, in my estimation, not that much of a factor.
In a state with 10% unemployment, he says the concern about jobs dwarfs religious issues with voters.
I believe that's true. The economy is #1 right now.
One political observer told us today that many evangelicals won't vote for a Mormon, or Mitt Romney in this case, not because of his religion, but because they consider him too moderate on some of the issues.
They're a trio of good girls. They're a lot of fun, and there were a lot of people who thought that the John 2012 girls were John Huntsman's best promoters on the campaign trail, even better than the candidate himself. On Twitter and YouTube, they helped move the campaign forward to a younger generation. Just a few days ago, I had a chance to look back with them a bit as well. The John 2012 girls go to the house where it all began. This North Hollywood home is where John Huntsman lived when he was voted king of his class in school, an early political boost.
It's a perfect street.
The quiet one-story house with a big pine tree in front is a reminder of what was. But John Huntsman Jr. isn't looking back at this point, probably aiming for the top sometime in the future.
I think we've realized that our dad, and it's very rare in this situation, that his flame has just been ignited. He has so much more to give, and we can tell you that, this is not the last you're going to see of our dad. And he's so young.
But for now, this is post-campaign relaxation, and that, for the Huntsman daughters, includes a trip to a North Hollywood landmark, Henry's Taco Stand. A snapshot reminds their dad of where his taco habit started.
He really wants to get into the culture, and he loves to be right there, so.
Yeah, but I have a feeling it started here at this taco place.
Their love for tacos.
Their family used to come here on for special occasions, right?
He said it was the big night out with his family to come to Henry's Tacos.
And for the first time on a Super Tuesday, the state of Idaho is getting involved. Republicans are holding Idaho's first ever caucus tonight because they want to be a part of a national stage in a bigger way. Alex Cabrero is live in Pocatello, where GOP leaders are getting ready for their big event. Alex.
And Bruce, you can definitely feel that sense of nervousness here at Idaho State University. This is where Bannock County GOP leaders are holding the county's first caucus meetings ever in conjunction with the rest of the state. And even though they know what to do, they're not 100% sure of how it's all going to turn out. Their biggest concern, would anybody care about this caucus? Would people show up? But let me show you the room we're in right now, and you can see it is a packed house, standing room only, and more people are walking in as we speak. Now, as we mentioned, Idaho has never held a caucus before, where 32 delegates are now ready for whoever can win 50% of the vote in Idaho. Jordan Charette is excited. He's the Eastern Idaho Region Chair for the GOP and is a big part of setting up tonight's caucus in Bannock County. Normally, Idaho has a primary and does it in May, but by then, the candidate for the Republican Party has pretty much already been decided. Because of that, often, Idaho was ignored on the national scene.
Which is a shame, because we're one of the more conservative states in the nation. I mean, we consistently put Republicans and strong Republicans into office nationally, and you don't hear it in the spotlight. But
now, though, by switching from a primary in May to a caucus in March on Super Tuesday, Idaho is a bigger player. And with 32 delegates to be awarded, it's not a state that can just be ignored anymore.
This is the first time that I can remember in my life that we've had as many presidential candidates come and visit as often as they have. I mean, Romney's been here a few times. Ron Paul's even actually given a sales pitch at one of the events.
Now, if a candidate gets 50% of the vote here, then that candidate gets all 32 of Idaho's delegates. If they don't get 50% in that first round, they go to a round two, where the candidate with the lowest number of votes and any candidate not getting 15% are taken off the ballot. If after 4 rounds no candidate still doesn't get 50% of the vote, then Idaho's 32 delegates are divided proportionally among the remaining candidates. Now, even though Idaho is a very conservative state and a strong LDS church state, it's not a foregone conclusion Mitt Romney will win here.
Democrats all across the state gathered tonight for neighborhood caucuses. It's a little known but crucial part of the candidate selection process. Political specialist Richard Pyatt's live at a caucus location to explain why it's so important. Rich?
Well, good evening, Deanie. Not much warning there. Sorry about that. Everybody knows that in November we elect a candidate, but how do the candidates get on the ballot anyway? Well, it happens here at places like this where I'm standing at a neighborhood caucus meeting, and that'll be happening in just under an hour. Neighborhood caucuses can be as small as this house gathering. This is from a story I did on the Republican caucuses several years ago, but they can be larger too. So why should you bother to take the time to go? Democrats tonight, Republicans on Thursday. Well, it's ultimately about picking a candidate. Before a candidate is chosen, chances are that person received votes at the party convention. That'll happen in early summer for both parties. Delegates have the power to vote for those candidates. They speak for entire communities and can either select or eliminate candidates on that convention day. How do the delegates get there? They're selected at caucus meetings this week.
After redistricting, whoever gets elected this time has a very good shot of being there for 10 years. And a lot of the Republicans are not running for re-election.
Democrats tonight will select 2,645 delegates statewide at hundreds of caucus locations. To find the Democratic caucus location in your voting district, go to utah.democrats.org, and you should find where to go. Well, all this starts at 7 p.m. I'm here at Dilworth Elementary School where there are 30 precincts and they'll be electing 64 delegates. People are just now starting to get here to get ready for the 7 p.m. starting time.
We've got 1,144 total that a candidate needs to reach to secure the nomination. And Mitt Romney's latest count is about 454. That's more than double Rick Santorum, who's at 217. That's double Newt Gingrich, and he's about double Ron Paul. At stake today, a pretty good number. We've got 119 delegates. The lion's share come from these two states, Alabama, I don't know if you can see that, and Mississippi. So a good night for Romney, a win in the South, and he can effectively close the door on his opponents who have a narrowing window to catch fire.
Decision 2012. The race for the White House heats up in Florida. KSL's political specialists take you to the Republican National Convention live. Sights, sounds, stories that matter to Utah. Beginning Sunday on KSL, your political specialists.
Political specialist Richard Pyatt's live in Tampa. He'll be there all week covering the convention for us. Rich, not a lot of action today, but there is a lot of buzz about Utah's 4th Congressional District candidate Mia Love.
Well, that's right. She's going to take center stage here tomorrow night. That's going to be an exciting moment for Mia Love. And part of the twists and turns that are happening at this convention, we just learned moments ago that Mitt Romney is going to cut his trip to the Midwest short and actually show up here in Tampa tomorrow. And so we're not really sure what to expect schedule-wise from the convention proceedings that way. But yeah, you're right. As Utah takes center stage tomorrow with Ann Romney appearing on stage and Jason Chaffetz taking stage and certainly Mia Love taking a center stage, it's going to be a big moment for this state and for Mia Love herself. This is a very important moment for her. I had a chance to ask NBC News analyst Mark Murray and Newt Gingrich, as a matter of fact, about her and the phenomenon she represents.
I think the challenge for someone like Mia Love is this is her first time doing something like this, and there is going to be a big national spotlight. But in a presidential year, when you have Mitt Romney on the ticket, a lot of people in Utah are going to be excited about the presidential contest. There might be a sense that that gives her a little bit of an edge. Given every poll that you actually see that the Republican Party isn't doing that well among African Americans, isn't doing that well among females, that she actually provides a counter story to that.
She has the right values, she has the right attitude, she's a real leader, and all she's got to do is ask Matheson all through September and October, is he really going to vote for Obama? I mean, how does he go home to Utah and say Obama is better for Utah than Romney? I think it's a burden that no Democratic congressman can carry in a state like Utah.
Decision 2012. The race for the White House. KSL's team of political specialists now take you to the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. Continuing live team coverage today on KSL, your political specialists.
Rebuilding together, that is not something you would think of when talking about the Democratic and Republican parties. Political specialist John Daly live in North Carolina to tell us that is actually the case for one project at these national conventions. Sounds interesting, John.
Well, Mike, it is very interesting. That project is called House United. Today, delegates and other convention goers from around the country, including Utah, gathered together, grabbed a hard hat and a hammer, and gave back. Usually it's the Republicans versus the Democrats, but that certainly wasn't the case today here in North Carolina.
Veterans need a lot of help. I mean, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I saw the damage that was done to our veterans during that war.
Delegates, politicians, and volunteers came together to help build half of a home for an American military veteran. A group of Utah Democrats got their hands in the action.
It was meaningful for us from Utah because we are a state that sends a lot of veterans, off to war, and I think we do a really good job of taking care of them when they come back. Kitchen, dining room here. Come this way.
Why just half? The other half was built last week at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. Extreme Makeover Home Edition host Ty Pennington is leading the project, which he says is the first of its kind.
Just to see both sides really pitching in, rolling up their sleeves, and actually really making some progress. So that way when this home is delivered, it really is from both sides of the Americans.
And something Utah Democrats say could be symbolic.
It's something that we certainly hope to see the country kind of mimicking in the future.
All right, so the two sides of the home will be reunited or united tomorrow, and then it'll be given to a veteran in October.
It was interesting to make the comparison between Tampa and Charlotte, and I'll tell you, both cities worked really hard. Both cities ultimately delivered, but there was a real difference in the feel and the openness and the warmth and the security in the two cities. So would you like a little opinion on that?
Okay, let's see it.
Let's do it. This is the tale of two cities. Both hosted a national convention, both had serious security concerns, and both kept the people safe. And both did it very differently. In Tampa, much of the downtown felt and was pretty much shut down. Some places even felt under siege.
We got men, women, and children and homeless people out here.
To be sure, Charlotte does have its fences. We have the checkpoints. We have a strong police presence, drumbeat of protesters, and of course, helicopters. This is Tryon Street. This is the main drag of Charlotte. It's open, it feels welcoming, and just a couple of blocks that way, that's where all the action's happening. But no troops marching along the streets in cadence. I have yet to see an M16, although I'm sure they're here. I know there are different logistics, different challenges, different threat levels, but I've learned an important lesson here in Charlotte. It's not just about getting the job done. Both Tampa and Charlotte pulled it off. They kept the people safe. But it's how you get the job done. I enjoyed both, but it's great to be in Charlotte. But that's just my opinion.
The ads are running to the point of driving people nuts. The highly contested 4th District race features messages claiming both Jim Matheson and Mia Love are working against Utah's best interests. But what's really going on? Political specialist Richard Pyatt joins us. And Rich, you did a truth test on some of the most prominently running ads.
And the Matheson and Love race. You know, I talk to so many people that are really bugged by these ads.
You see them all the time.
They think that, they say that they're so annoying to them. And the reason is, or one of the reasons anyway, is the negative tone of them and the sense that they're all filled with half-truths. We decided to cut through the clutter a little bit with a reality check on what some of them are saying. A multi-million-dollar spending spree is funding these ads, many paid for by out-of-state PACs. Love's ads play up Matheson's relationship with the president. Matheson's ads portray Love as extreme and out of touch. Example, this ad centering on Medicare, paid for by a Democrat PAC.
Mia Love supported a budget plan the Wall Street Journal said would essentially end Medicare. The plan would replace Medicare with a voucher system that would double seniors' medical bills.
Actually, Love has said she supports the Paul Ryan plan, which would reform Medicare moving forward with privatization as an option, but not change it for those currently on the program. A Republican PAC counterattacks Matheson on health care this way.
Matheson supports President Obama's liberal agenda, like funding for Obamacare, more debt, and higher taxes on families.
Matheson actually voted against Obamacare multiple times before it became law. But he did cast a procedural vote against repeal when the law was on its way to the Supreme Court. He later voted for the repeal. Matheson defends his vote for the stimulus, saying it saved jobs and funded tax relief in Utah. The Republican Central Congressional Committee PAC accuses Matheson of saying one thing in Utah and doing another in Washington.
Matheson was the only one in Utah to vote for Obama's $831 billion stimulus, and Matheson voted to raise Obama's debt limit.
In truth, both Republicans and Democrats in Congress voted to raise the debt limit. Matheson's campaign hit Love on her tax record, too, during her time in Saratoga Springs.
Mia Love raised taxes almost 200%, as Mayor Love dramatically increased salaries and spending, creating a deficit.
In fact, while on the city council, Love did vote to raise property taxes 116%, but she also cut the budget to save her city from a shortfall. The money did not go towards salaries.
Jim Matheson, Mia Love, two candidates, one goal, Congress. The stakes are high as both candidates face off in a debate on KSL. Your vote decides.
From this debate, it was clear Jim Matheson and Mia Love disagree on several key issues.
My opponent thinks we ought to get rid of all college student loans.
when 75% of all college students in Utah take advantage of those student loans.
I would say definitely is that I support Mitt Romney. I believe that Mitt Romney is going to help get our economy back on its feet. Jim Matheson supports Barack Obama.
This debate also included questions from nonpartisan nonprofit foundations.
What are your thoughts, in light of all the fiscal difficulties faced by the federal government right now, on continuing to provide this kind of aid to college students?
Senator Orrin Hatch faced off with challenger Dan Lillianquist this morning in the only debate before the Republican primary on June 26 here on KSL Radio.
Senator Hatch has held the line on overall tax raises. What he has not held the line is the worst kind of taxation. The worst kind of taxation, where you spend a future generation's worth of wealth and you foist it on a whole bunch of Americans who didn't have a chance to vote for you with interest. That is fiscal child abuse.
Let me get this straight. Apparently, I'm responsible for everything that's wrong in the federal government. That's total BS, and everybody knows it.
Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation with the 1st District congressional candidates, Congressman Rob Bishop and Donna McAleer, the Democratic challenger in this race. We are at Clearfield High School in Lanayana Wimmer's AP Government class, where we will soon be taking questions from some of our students. We have some of those students prepared to ask those questions now. Please tell me your name and state your question.
I'm Brett Lurcher, and I wanted to ask, is Congress too partisan today?
The race for state auditor isn't the kind of thing that gets a lot of attention these days, but it is a very important office. The state auditor helps ensure the financial integrity and accountability of Utah's state and local governments. And joining me today are the two men seeking that job, Democrat Mark Sage and Republican John Dugal. In this Sunday edition, a conversation with the candidates, each hoping to become the 2nd District's new congressman. We'll ask Chris Stewart and Jay Sigmiller to address the issues important to Utah voters. Information about voter registration is arriving in people's mailboxes these days, and a lot of people here in Utah choose to vote straight ticket. This week, Doug Wright offers his opinion on why people should reconsider that approach.
Utah is one of 15 states that allows us to check a straight ticket on our ballot. Now, maybe it's because I've never voted a straight ballot. Maybe it's because I secretly long for a little more balance in state government. Or maybe it's because I simply don't see the world in black and white. That's why I really believe we need to exercise a lot of caution if we're going to vote a straight ballot, because I believe in the words of Theodore Roosevelt. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. Don't we at least owe those who went to the trouble to get on the ballot the courtesy of reading their names? Here you have the official Salt Lake County ballot. So let's just for kicks and grins vote Republican. So we're all done, right? Oh, long way from it. Let's click ahead. We're okay on these pages. You might not be sure who you voted for, but hey, the votes are there. But now we get to page 4, District 22. There's not a Republican running in that race, so you've made no decision there. And then we move forward to page 8, the issues regarding school districts and school boards. And we get into township issues. How do you feel about that? We haven't even gotten to the last page, and that happens to be the constitutional amendments and forms of government. If you vote a straight ticket and just walk away, look at all you've missed. Now remember, if you do choose to vote straight ticket, you can go in and modify page by page. But for those who just hit that button and walk away, I'm sorry. That is a disrespectful and lazy way to vote. But then again, that's just my opinion.
Social media has really changed this election, from live tweeting debates to behind-the-scenes looks into the lives of politicians. But will any of it matter tomorrow? News specialist Jennifer Stagg joins us with more on that. Now, about the only thing we can't do online is actually vote.
Yeah, you can do everything else. You can express your opinion all you want. But get this, 58% of adults get their political news from social media sites like Twitter and Facebook. 88% of those adults are on social media are registered voters, and candidates know social media is now a major part of their campaigning.
Campaigning isn't just about door knocking and phone calling these days. Candidates tweet, Facebook, Instagram, are on LinkedIn and Pinterest, and make videos on YouTube. Some Utah politicians also harness the power of the internet.
A new person, an up-and-coming person, can actually leverage the power of social media to help them.
Mia Love is the prime example. She is the most tracked politician in Utah with nearly 40,000 likes on Facebook. By contrast, her competitor Jim Matheson has just under 5,000. Michael Jolly is Love's social media director.
We're able to reach a lot of people in a maybe a less annoying way than the robocalls or TV ads that people get tired of.
Ben McAdams, candidate for Salt Lake County mayor, has also embraced social media.
You get to know people through Facebook or Twitter, and then I meet them live and in person on the campaign trail. And when they tell me my name, I recognize that I know them. We've had conversations before. They're kind of a friend, so to speak.
State Senator and avid tweeter Todd Weiler says social media is the new meet and greet.
It really does flatten the earth, if you will. It allows people to communicate on a very local level.
But does any of it matter come election day? Do likes and followers turn into votes?
You don't vote on social media. You actually have to vote by mail or in person, and that's where it really counts.
While it might not translate that literally, John Johnson believes social media and online buzz can fairly accurately predict winners.
I think you do have an ability to forecast races.
That's what he and his team at Politicket do, and they've got a 90% success rate from past races.
And I think this is the beginning of a real change in politics.
Okay, so here are Politicket's predictions for a few of the very high-profile races. The first, presidential. They are calling it an extremely close race with Obama just 1 point on their scale.
Just like all the others.
Yep, ahead of Romney. The Love-Matheson race, they think Love will come out on top by quite a bit. McAdams and Crockett, their prediction is that McAdams will win. So are they accurate? We will find out tomorrow.
I mean, this debate is huge for Romney as the challenger, and he's behind in the polls, especially in the swing states.
I think Mitt Romney's got a lot riding on this thing.
It's really the first chance to see these two guys side by side.
The issues that they'll be talking about may not be of their own choosing, so they're going to have to be prepared.
I think it's crucial that we be there. I'm glad we're going.
It's an opportunity for us to bring the story to our own viewers.
It's still super close.
It's been an incredible political year. The debate kind of cap our coverage, followed only by election.
I'm Mike Hedrick, setting up shop at the Republican headquarters. I'm going to be covering the presidential election, specifically covering Mitt Romney's campaign.
And I'm John Daly, watching the returns regarding the president's re-election bid from here at Democratic Party headquarters. Along with Mike Hedrick, we will be following Utah's hottest race this year, the race for the 4th congressional seat.
Watching the races for governor and Utah's 1st congressional district, Carol Makita at the GOP and Keith McCord with the Democrats. Mike Anderson and Sandra Yee will bring us the latest on Utah's 2nd and 3rd congressional races, while Andrew Wittenberg and Jeff Lysick cover the U.S. Senate race and the fight for Attorney General, who will replace Mark Shurtleff.
And who will become Salt Lake County's new mayor? I'm John Hollenhorst watching the Ben McAdams camp here at Democratic headquarters.
And I'm Jed Bowl at the Republican Party celebration, tracking Mark Crockett's bid to become the Salt Lake County mayor.
Andrew Adams from KSL News Radio is joining me now to talk about some of this.
Now let's visit with our all-star panel. In our group, we have Frank Pagnanelli, former Utah House Minority Leader, Senator Mike Lee, Republican, and LeVar Webb, Republican with the Utah Policy Project.
Just a few minutes ago, I had a unique opportunity and went with Darren Bailey, our photographer, up to one of the suites. We went to visit with Mia Love and her family.
Look around the room and I see so many people that have worked so hard. I mean, sacrificed so many hours in their heart and just efforts to get us to where we are today.
I'm here with Fraser Bullock, who's a longtime friend of Mitt Romney's, worked with him since the Bain Capital days through the Olympics, and he's here. He was here when the crowd was shouting Mitt, Mitt, Mitt just a while ago, as Fox News pointed out that there are still some uncounted counties in Ohio. Fraser, what's your reaction to the mood and the way the race has gone tonight?
Well, it's a little subdued right now because several news stations have called the election for Obama. Karl Rove isn't quite there yet. He has this little sliver of hope. We hope he's right, but we know the chances are very slim at this point.
I don't know I've met a man with worse timing than you. When you went to take the podium there, and it was interesting because people were cheering and screaming, and all of a sudden just a hush came across the crowd. What was that like for you? Did you realize what had happened?
I did. I did realize. We've been watching it in the back.
You know, I thought it was interesting, Senator. I'm not sure if you're a big AC/DC fan, but they were playing Back in Black before you took the stage. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's probably appropriate.
A pretty good lead for Ben McAdams. Mr. McAdams, do you think you can claim victory yet?
Not yet. We're not ready to declare victory, but we feel very good about where these numbers are.
Well, so far the early voting has come in a little bit wider gap for McAdams than I had expected, so we're just going to have to wait and see at this point.
I do have a lot of respect for people in both parties who are willing to step forth and throw their hat in the ring and run and ask to be judged by their peers.
Right.
I mean, that's
at such an expense of their own time and family time.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.